Hello, Stacy. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great, Elijah. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Stacy, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Stacy, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invested in yourself. And oftentimes they say, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Stacy, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, mm, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Stacy. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a
I love
beautiful
mangoes.
experience that. Oh, I love that. It was such a beautiful experience that day, and I was so excited. Here is my point: the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Stacy that you are today. That alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your work, your journey, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions, Stacey. The stuff's so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from this beautiful thing Stacey is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to look selfish and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Stacey. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, Stacey.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate all the kind words. And I have invested in myself heavily, I can tell you that.
I tell you, I can see that because that's why you're here. Awesome. So let's get right into it. You see, I am
Mhm.
quite excited to have you on the show today, Stacey, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Stacey, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, Stacy, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Stacy on the show is for the sake of the audience. They say, Stacy, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So this folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Stacy, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, Stacey, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Stacey got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Stacey, over to you.
Sure. My journey has been anything but linear, and, It's very long and very vast, so I'll try to be brief. I've been in a lot of different industries over the years, and, yeah, from everything from waiting tables, right, in restaurants to tending bar. Then I moved into technology, which was a pretty big jump for someone that is self-trained and never graduated college and whatnot. Um, and that led me to, a very abundant career in that over the years. I started there, and within a year, I rolled out the first desktop computers to an entire department of the US government. Then I became a subject matter expert in the field of federal government procurement here in the US. I acquired a tech company with no money. When we sold that, I started a construction company, and I had a llama farm along the way, so I've done a lot of
Mm,
different things. I don't know if you know what a llama is, and today I am, the founder of Modern Consciousness, and, that is what I do. I help people find their clarity, enact positive change, in a very productive and effective way. And I help them find their joy, right? I help them do what I call chart your treasure map to joy.
awesome. And I tell you, what you're doing is really important because when people get to live joyfully, you mentioned helping them find their joy, they tend to do some beautiful stuff. So what you're doing is amazing and I love it. So I've got some questions here for you. Are you ready for me?
I am.
All right. So let us talk about let's deal with the emotional part first. So what are emotional triggers?
Oh, well, emotional triggers, we can obviously be triggered into joy or laughter, but generally, when we talk about emotional triggers, it is those situations in which we react harshly and with negative emotions. And I am a firm believer that if you calm your emotional triggers, you calm your life. We are responsible for our reactions, nobody else is. And I think it's very important to take a look at those as you go throughout the day and try to start figuring it out, right? I'm kind of an analyst at heart. So I like to look at those things and then say, okay, why did I react in that way? The better we understand something, um, the more equipped we are to actually do something about it and choose to react differently. And that is our responsibility to do so. So honestly, if someone could just do one thing to positively change their life, it would be to calm their emotional triggers.
Profoundly said, and I got that. So in other words, we should respond instead of react. Okay, so
Yes,
yeah,
intentionally.
intentionally. Okay, so what is the first step to responding instead of reacting? I want you to talk more on that.
I think the first step is to pause.
Mm,
What I suggest that people do, and there is a free resource on my website that you can direct people to that's called Navigating Your Emotional Triggers, but it's a workbook that asks different questions. So it has you think about those circumstances instead of reacting on autopilot, right? What's at the base of it? What were you feeling? What were you thinking when you reacted? Um, what do you think the other person thought was happening, right, when you reacted? So there's some perspective shifting in there as well. It asks things like if there was a third party standing there that was not involved in your situation and watching what was going on, what might their takeaway be, right? What would they have observed and how would they have observed that situation? So I think getting to the root of why we're reacting the way we are, and it can be from anything, right? It can be from an old personal wound, emotional wound. We could just be so stressed out that we're afraid and we react to everything. I think when we slow down and start to understand those patterns, and they are just thinking patterns, and reaction patterns, if we don't understand it, and recognize it if we're not aware of it. I'm very, very keen on awareness. If we're not aware about it, we can't do anything about it. And, that ranges from very simple things like, maybe your kid didn't clean his room and you're yelling at him, right? You have a bad reaction to that. Is that really getting you what you want, Um, eh, so if that's always your reaction, that doesn't nurture that relationship. It's just a really easy example for people to understand. So if your main objective and your goal really is to nurture that relationship and to teach them the responsibility, then find another way to do that rather than yelling and reacting. Because that doesn't, in the long run, that doesn't produce the outcome that we actually wish to achieve, right? But we forget about what we're actually wanting to achieve. We get caught up in the details of daily life.
Mm, mm, that's right, and I got that. And I tell you, I also practice taking pause, and
Mhm.
it has dramatically changed certain situations for me. Before I always tend to react due to some certain things, but when I started working on, these stuff are trying to trigger me to do some certain things that I shouldn't. So I'll take my time to pause. Okay, what outcome am I aiming to achieve with this? Just like what you mentioned now. And ever since then, it's been better. So let us talk about hold programming. So what is hold programming and how does it silently run our lives?
I have an aspect of modern consciousness that I call automaton, and I have a little bit of a different feeling about it than some people because it's perfectly natural. We come into this world completely helpless. We have to rely on everybody around us. And it is no secret in this day and age, right, that all of the influences from our family, the institutions we're in, schools, churches, other influences such as magazines and advertising, right? All of that blends to create what I call and what many others also call our personal worldview. And I think that that's the kind of the way it has to be. The way I think of it is that phase, when you get to a point that you start to realize that you actually can make choices and you can overcome those things, that is when you can slow down and start to be aware of that programming and look for patterns of where something is showing up in your life. But that is the baseline from which we all start. There's no point in criticizing ourselves for it. It's just, the nature of our upbringing and the way it works when you're human. So for me, that really forms the foundation from which to step forward, right? And say, okay, it's a vital part of the journey. We have to have those lessons, those experiences. And I believe that that part of our lives really lays the groundwork for our future. Should we take the time and the effort to move beyond it? Right. So again, it's awareness. If we don't, so many people think they don't have a choice. When I hear people say, oh, it's just the way I am. Well, that may be, but you can change that. You have the power within yourself to change that. And I really believe that personal development is all about becoming just the next best version of yourself over and over and over again.
Got that. Taking the time and effort to move beyond that. I got that. I got that. Okay, so we have two more to go, Stacy.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you mentioned acquiring a company. So how did you acquire a $50 million company with no upfront investment?
Well, it's a really interesting story. I was very familiar with the company. I was familiar with that technical space. I had been in that industry for quite a while. And I literally just woke up one morning and said, "Gosh, I need to maybe buy that company. I need to call them." Having absolutely no idea what that meant, having absolutely no idea what a business like that might cost. I had no experience. But I did make the phone call. They had just listed, I guess they had made the decision to sell prior to my contacting them, and they had already enlisted a broker to do the sale. So one thing that's different about me is that um I didn't listen to the voice, the voice in your head that goes, "There's no way you can do that." I didn't listen to that voice. My voice was, "I'm going to figure out how to do this." And, I think that that is how I have experienced confidence throughout my entire life. Often we talk about having a lack of confidence. And my confidence stemmed from not being instantly good at something, but I was confident that I could learn it, adapt, and eventually excel at whatever I chose to do. And that's mindset. And that's very powerful.
That's mindset, and that's very powerful. Mm, okay, I got that as well. All right, so what about this one? How do one design one's life instead of drifting through it?
We really have to gain clarity about it. And I have a process that I sort of use naturally, but I've kind of codified it all and put it into a program. And if we intentionally want to grow, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, I think so often we stay so busy, right? We're just trying to keep up with the schedule of our life. So when our calendars and our busyness is creating the momentum in our life, we have lost the ability to intentionally choose what we want our next steps to be. I think we are often, I find that people are executing against decisions they made possibly decades ago. Do those decisions still serve them in this season of their life? So I think it's very, very important to sit down and say, okay, the first thing we need to do is get clarity on where am I right now today? And look at all of these rich dimensions of your life and what's working well and what isn't, and how does one area influence another, and really take a good look and figure out what's really going on. Because if we make decisions to move in a direction without gaining that clarity, we often take action that solves the wrong problem. We think it's going to fix what's ailing us. We think the next thing's going to make us happy. We think, oh, if only I get that promotion, if only I XYZ. But we haven't really sat down and said, okay, where is my life today? How is it serving me? What is causing me frustration? What do I really want to be doing? What are my values? What really are my values today? Because our values change over time. There can be a season of your life where you're busy building a career, and that's wonderful as long as your stakeholders, the other people that are in your life, are on board with you for that ride, right? If you're ignoring your family, you're not going to get the outcome that you desire so much. So I think the first thing is we really have to gain clarity on where our life is today. The second thing is we have to gain clarity on what we would prefer to be experiencing in life overall, in each area of our life, what we want life to look like, and not in the way of external achievements. How do we want to feel about our? And I think that those two things um, form the basis from which you can then say, okay, let's start looking at this. What pattern is showing up for me that if I change just that one pattern, it will have the most profound positive effect across my life overall. I think when a lot of people get into personal development, and I've seen it time and time again, they'll be in these seminars and, oh my gosh, we've had these breakthroughs and they've gained new knowledge, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to change 437 things about my life starting tomorrow. And that's a recipe for disaster. It doesn't happen like that. Again, it's slower, gradual, intentional steps to just be the next best version of yourself tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Realizing that we're going to slip up sometimes, and that's okay. We're human. Um, but we keep going in the direction we desire to go in. I'd like to go back to the thing that you said about knowledge, if I might, because I truly believe that our inner peace is our greatest personal asset. I think the prerequisite of that is knowledge, but it is not just obtaining the knowledge. It's, as you said, it's executing against that knowledge. It's actually learning to embody it so that that becomes a natural habit for us. We don't have to think about it anymore because we have actually embodied um, that desire of ours. And then we start to naturally respond and move through life in that way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Now I see why you're so good at what you do, Stacie.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So, and I'm gonna take that as a final thought. So, for folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or be a part of your lovely programs, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Yes, my website is modernconsciousness.com. And that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. You can look under programs and find my free resources. You can subscribe to be part of my community. Um, yeah, everything is on modernconsciousness.com, including how to follow me on social media.
So, so that's gonna be the end of the show, Stacie. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah.